Pod Maverick fans, this is Kirk Henderson, joined as always by Josh Bowe. You are joining us on Friday night before 10 o'clock in a rare 2-hour NBA basketball game where the Dallas Mavericks just defeated the Toronto Raptors, or some semblance of the Toronto Raptors, 124-102. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Glad the game was short. Um, you know, we're okay. It's Friday. Got the light on. Mavericks won, so they get the light.
It's a great
I
bit.
got to I got to stick to it. I got to be a man of principle.
It's
So
good.
they won. So they earned the light coming back on, and I don't know, man. We'll talk about this game as much as what do we got to get to for our 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 our
We'll get
overlords
there. I
behind me
got
20
I got
minutes?
some other stuff to talk about before,
Okay.
other than the game, but like the Toronto Raptors are disgusting.
That lineup they rolled out was an affront to God.
There is
Hold
like
everything
if
holy.
they fall in the draft lottery, just remember this game that you saw. They've been doing this for weeks, and honestly, the lineups that they've been playing have actually been battling their asses off. And this team did the same. They're just not very good. Let's go through, just take a look at who in the hell they rolled out tonight, because I was just like, what is going on here? Sorry, it's this 8:30 game, 8:30 start time, East Coast time. All right. The Raptors rested RJ Barrett. They rested Emmanuel quickly. Like, what do these guys need rest for? Like, the NBA should find them. Like, they should flat out find them.
They should.
Brandon Ingram was out, but he's had a horrendous ankle sprain that he's been dealing with on and off the whole year. Jacoby Walter, who a lot of our people probably don't know, missed the game. Jacob Pertl missed the game with a MCP joint contusion. This was just gross. Like, and they're out there playing guys who was it Eugene Omurori? God, I can't even say his name. He played like 10 seconds for the Raptors at the end of the game. Was he on our G League team for a while? The
He was
Mavericks.
on. No, he was on the
The Mavericks. We
Mavericks.
liked him. He was a fun little combo
Yeah,
forward.
from Oregon. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him. I liked him. He was interesting. So they played a bunch of dudes I've never heard of,
Dude.
plus Scotty Barnes. It was ridiculous.
They could only they suited up the league minimum 8. They only
Mhm.
played 7 because Chris Boucher was not actually healthy enough to play, but they had to suit him up or they would have forfeited the game. So they only played 7. Of the 7 players they played, 3 of them were undrafted players and 2 of them were second round rookies. That's 5 of the 7, basically.
I mean, if you're going to tank this hard. Former Maverick AJ Lawson played 32 minutes, showing why he got a contract despite being like a skinny 6'4.5" guard. He had 10 rebounds to lead the Raptors. I mean, Scotty Barnes, the world's biggest, or the most. He's probably the player, in my opinion, who I just can't believe somebody paid him a max. He is just an L7 weenie who is not contributing to winning basketball and hasn't the whole time he's been there. So good job, Scotty Barnes, big nerd. But the Mavericks, having precisely nothing to play for, in funny fashion, there was a kind of an internet thing today where if a couple of other teams lost and the Mavericks lost as well, there's a chance for one, and the Mavericks lost. There's a chance for the Mavericks to slide to kind of the 11th worst lottery odds. That just, with some of these teams as they're playing, like the Mavericks could lose to Memphis on Sunday. And I guess there's still a chance for that. I honestly, I'm done paying attention to
there's
this. You know what I mean?
Don't. Yeah, don't. Just don't.
Yeah.
They're locked. They're either the 9th or the 10th seed. That can't change.
Yeah. Their odds in the lottery could shift but like I'm not going to pay attention until it's over.
No, and I'm not trying to rain on people's, because I know you love the draft, and I don't want to rain on people's love of the draft, but I would not get excited about the draft until it is opening night of October, and that draft pick is suited up and active in a Mavericks uniform, because who knows if that draft pick will make it to the Mavericks roster, by the time next season starts, just with the way things are going.
For sure. Who else played well? Oh yeah, Anthony Davis. Congratulations. His fourth career triple double, a near quadruple double, honestly.
First player in, I think, first player. Some I don't know. I think someone tweeted at me, first player in NBA history to have a triple double with 7 blocks, I think, or
Like a
something like.
score. It's like one of those weird scoregami
Yeah,
things where it's
he hit one of those marks that's never been hit before.
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, he had
Or
23 points.
third time in league history. Sorry.
23 points, 13 boards, 10 assists. They were really hunting that last assist for a while, which a lot of his others just kind of came within the course of the game.
Yeah.
Plus 21. But again, like they're playing they're you know
Dude.
they're playing JJ Redick's old he's playing plumbers.
Jonathan Mokbo was the starting center for
right
Toronto.
So I mean it's just
yeah, I already kind of did it in the recap. I have a lot of Anthony Davis thoughts. I'm going to save them for maybe later, but
no, we won't even acknowledge it. It's just he like I'm glad for his.
They took care of business. Congrats, but
yeah,
maybe save a little bit of that for let's see.
Let's roll that out in a game that matters because so far he's played well against Atlanta and against Toronto
and Houston for
half the game. Yeah. All right. Who else played well? I don't know. I mean, this game was largely about getting through it alive. I just didn't see anything in this game. Like, if we're gonna be doing stuff like this, I want to see interesting things, and I'm not. And that's annoying.
You can't in a game like this. Like, it's not even the Mavericks' fault. Like the Raptors played maybe one of the worst NBA lineups I've
can't let Derek Lively do anything weird.
Yeah, maybe let him shoot some threes in this game. But
yeah, just do something.
Yeah, they did some big pick and rolls with Davis. Yeah. That's why he got the 10 assists. But again, do it against the Clippers.
Sure.
Like, do it against the do it against the Lakers. Like,
that's why. Yeah, it's true. I think you got to maybe roll it out, practice a little bit. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
Brandon
Williams this was Brandon Williams' first game back. That was notable.
I think Caleb Martin doubled. Caleb Martin doubled his Maverick career total in 3-pointers by hitting 2.
He did.
Yay. He also had 2 turnovers, which is very funny.
Yep.
We saw Dante Exum sighting. That was interesting. I mean, he was questionable last game, but we didn't really talk about him because he didn't play at all. That was fun. Brandon Williams, first game as an official Dallas Mavericks member instead of a 2-way contract guy. My understanding, and this could not be the case, is that he is signed for these last 2 games. He'll be part of the play-in roster. And then I think he's signed for a couple of games like next year. I don't think his contract is real for next year, which is a little annoying to me because as we'll talk about a little bit more in the second half of the show, Dallas needs guards.
Dude, you can make a case right now, before their offseason starts and whatever offseason moves they make, he might be their best starting point guard when opening night.
And I would prefer him to some of the free agency options that are going to cost more money. Like he's the devil, I know, and he's not a devil. It's not what I mean. It's just he's a person where the Mavericks are familiar with.
Yeah,
he comes out, he plays his ass off. He had 7 of 8 shooting tonight. He had some really sloppy turnovers, but he's not played in the NBA in 2 weeks because they didn't have any more availability for him. Just kind of looking at the rest of it. It's
they did what they needed to do.
Yeah. Jaden Hardy played 8 minutes after being sidelined with that nasty ankle sprain. Hope he's okay.
Yep.
That's just kind of like it's like all you got for this game. Nobody got hurt, and that's what you look for, right?
Right. Yeah. They just needed no one get hurt and don't take care of business. Even though they could lose these games and it doesn't really change much. The outside chance of them being able to host the 9-10 game, Matt, that does kind of matter. But in the grand scheme of things, you're going to go on the road and play a good team if you get through the 9-10 game. So,
right. And the Mavericks
you don't hang banners for winning a 9-10 game.
Yeah, it ultimately doesn't matter because they're a half game back behind Sacramento. So Sacramento has 2 games left. The Mavericks have 1.
If Sacramento loses, if they lose out and the Mavericks win out, they'll get 9.
Yeah. And they're playing the Clippers right now.
And they play the Suns.
And then they play Suns, yeah. So it's
they're
like
going to win.
Anyway. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to insert some ads, or I'm going to try to insert some ads. And then Josh and I will be back for the second half of the show. Thank you guys for who there have been lots of people who've reached out to let me know that kind of ad insertion isn't happening. We're onboarding with a new company. Odyssey is our host, and they're helping us through this. I've made them aware of it. But we're going to figure it out. We're going to put in some ads here, and then Josh and I will be right back. Thank you for letting us do that. Shout out to everybody who subscribed. We passed 3,500 followers again. We lost like 100 whenever Luka was traded, which sucked. But now we're back over 3,500. I had set a goal of 5,000 for the year, but with the way the year went, everything just kind of went sideways. It is what it is. You know, we're doing our little bit by bit, and we're going to see how we go. We appreciate everybody who has stuck with us. And we will see, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes.
We had 0 comments on the Mavs Moneyball game thread, which I've never seen that before. And I've been on the site since 2011. I think you officially joined, 2012, 2013?
Early 2013, yeah.
I don't think I ever remember a game thread have 0 comments.
No, nobody was watching this game. I mean, and it's funny. I was talking to my friend Anthony Irwin, who covers the Lakers. And he told me he's just like, and he's a Lakers guy. So Lakers guy, you could put out slop every day and you'll get followers. He was like, he's kind of made, this is his job. And he told me, he's like, I've just made the executive decision that I'm not going to record on Friday or Saturday night unless the game is good, because it's not worth my time. And that is sort of how I felt about tonight's Raptors game in terms of that game thread, where it's just like, nobody's going to come to the site. What are you going to do? Well, I got a couple of things that I wanted to talk about past this game. Do you want to talk about anything else related to the game?
No.
Okay.
I thought about it.
All right, so let's do some kind of follow up to Mavs Lakers. The first thing that I want to hit on. Thank you for to Bill and some of the people who saw me. I was a last second addition to the DLLS pod. And
caught a little bit of that. You did great.
Well, it's funny because number one, they had invited me on all year, and I literally sent Cato a message where I'm like, you brought on Jake, and this is no shade to Jake or Jason, but both of them were like, we're not Mavs fans anymore. And you brought them on your Mavs show. And I was like, what the hell? Like, Mavs guy, me right here. What are we doing? I'm your friend. And it was funny because, Cato and me have Cato's like a more or less, he's just kind of a lower energy guy. Like, that's just his nature. And so podcasting and stuff like that, you can tell he's sort of fighting against his own, because he's not like a super, he doesn't get super pissed. He's just a lower, even keel guy. And him and Kevin, you could tell, were so tired from the game before, the night before. And I think they were just happy to have my piss and vinegar on that show. But man, it was one of the things that came out of that, and you and I didn't have a chance to talk about this. Some of the quotes were insane. The post game, the pre-game.
I didn't see a lot of the post game, but the pre-game stuff for sure.
Luka's post game stuff was just heartbreaking, because he's just like, yeah, it's time to move on now. And there's just a real sense of closure. I hate it. The other part that was very interesting to me, at least, is according to multiple people. So like Rob Mahoney wrote about the game, who was there. Anthony Irvin wrote about the game, who was there. I think Nick Angstadt spoke to this, as have multiple other people. But for as loud as we felt the ESPN broadcast was, apparently people who were there were like, it was so much louder than even that. And so ESPN must have been tampering stuff down. The Mavs broadcast absolutely tampered stuff down. And I from what I've been told, it was one of the loudest environments people had ever been in. And that the Mavericks were pumping in more music to try to drown out the Fire Nico stuff, because you know how it is. Like, you're in an arena like that. I don't see a lot of live music. Have you ever gone to concerts and stuff?
Oh yeah.
So you know how like at the end of the night your ears just feel a little
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
I
That's
think
hell. My ears were like that. I was at Dirk's last home game. That was
okay,
a
so
little
that's a good
wild.
comparison because that's all like natural acoustic, like they're not pumping stuff in. But when you're
Right.
hearing things from a sound system, it kind of affects you because you're just like, what is going on?
Mhm.
And I think that from what David Trink said, well, our guy David Trink who went to the games, is like him and his brother were talking about how it felt like they were pumping in a lot of volume from the outside, which I just find that really interesting. Like the Mavericks, and we talked about this. I don't know if you listened to the secondary show that I did was really long, but I sort of hold the opinion that the Mavericks may, and this isn't controversial, but I think that the Wednesday game, the Lakers game, wouldn't have been near as emotional if the Mavericks hadn't spent the last 2 months antagonizing fans. What do you think?
I think there's some truth to that for sure. But I think ultimately, I think the only thing that would have stopped, I think there still would have been some, maybe it wouldn't have been as intense, but ultimately, the only thing that would have stopped it was if the team was good, and the team's not
Okay.
good. Like,
Okay.
I mean, but I no, I'm with you. Like, I don't think there would have been the consistent kind of groundswell, like,
I mean, it was
because you
all
keep,
game.
yeah,
Like that's I think what was so shocking is it was all game long.
and everything from like between the trade and now, like it hasn't really let up. So that's definitely a case of them poking the bear. Like I think this could have, like tonight might have happened no matter what, but maybe there's not as much going on 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Like like it's been constant. Like I think
Yep.
that's the part that for sure is coming from the constant poking of the fan base with all the PR failures and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think the only thing that would have stopped that game from not feeling like a Lakers home game would have been if the team was good, and the team couldn't be good because of the injuries, no matter what would happen.
It's really it was just such an interest. It was funny. My buddy Adamadas, who does the All Cities basketball podcast, like really wanted to talk about the game itself, like the actual basketball. But in hindsight, it was just like the game was. Half the players were emotionally shell shocked for one reason or another, and it's just two very different teams. And for as together as this Mavericks team has been, and I really think they have pulled together. If you want to give Jason Kidd any amount of praise, I think that's where you give him praise. We're helping like keep the team from together from sort of a leadership perspective. But the Mavericks themselves were shell shocked that game. And AD takes the biggest brunt of it because he's part of the trade, but he wasn't the only one. Everybody
No,
around was kind of. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie is big, fat, non-contributing zero, and it's like, what in the world? I don't
no,
know.
I know.
So the next thing I want to talk about, and we're I didn't even prepare you for this, but I know you listened to it, so we're going to talk about it. I think one of the reasons I got into this and wanted to have a voice in the Mavs community is I felt that the local legacy media sphere was way too fucking friendly. Like press more or less as I have been brought up upon it. Press is supposed to be maybe not always adversarial, but you're not supposed to be friends with the subjects you're covering, right?
No,
And
that's right.
in sports, it's really easy to fall into that trap. And
Because it
Cuban,
doesn't matter
it doesn't
in
matter.
a grand scheme. Like when you talk about the games, obviously there's stuff in sports that does
Mhm.
cross over, but
Sure.
that the games part, yeah.
Well, and Mark Cuban, former Dallas Mavericks owner, Jerry Jones to a lesser extent until he realized it's much better if people are angry. Um, Mavericks owner Mark Cuban was a really good person at making friends with just about every media member. Like people like him. Dalton Trigg, I used to tease him relentlessly. He would go to Cuban for every fucking comment he could because Cuban would give it. So people like, and they want that feedback. Where I always felt I was just like, guys, he's using you. He is, and that's what he was. It was a symbiotic relationship. And so I always felt for the longest time that this local media sphere around here was way too Mavericks friendly because they wasted Dirk's post prime after the championship. There was not a lot of criticism there. The Mavericks slipped into irrelevance, and there was just not a lot of criticism. And then you get Luka, and then immediately with Luka, they start making pretty bad decisions. I mean, we've covered all this. Like it's part of how we, I think, rose in some level of popularity. And so yesterday, this all brings me to yesterday, and obviously this isn't the first time this has happened, but it's the most recent, loudest time, and I gotta praise both parties. Bob Sturm of the Ticket had Mark Followell on for a significantly longer segment than what I heard. I only heard 10 minutes, but summarize the segment for us, Josh. I've been talking for like 5 solid minutes.
Oh no, it's good. And for those that don't know, the Ticket is the big Dallas Fort Worth sports radio station.
Very popular.
They're very, very popular. Been around for I think 30 years now. I can't remember.
Yeah, it sets the table for a lot of local, like people that aren't online.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very much a big cultural influencer in sports and DFW. Yeah, I mean the segment that what I heard was because Follow has a weekly segment, I believe, with them during the season, and Bob was very much, shared a similar opinion. I think that other people, I don't think he was unique in this opinion that the video tribute that the Mavericks played before the game tipped off, before Luka got introduced, was very weird in the sense that the team traded him and also talked mess about him out the door through leaks, and then to go ahead and then do a tribute video, like it just presented this awkward thing because the tribute video it's like, well, you traded him, like the team did, not the people that made the video, not the people in charge of all that and game ops, but like the leadership traded him and then presumably signed off on a tribute video. And it just felt very like a little hypocritical, it was Bob's point, and it just felt weird. And then Mark Followell's point was, the people that made the decision to trade him have nothing to do with the video. The video was made by a bunch of, hardworking people that, are just as hurt probably that as all the fans and local media are. And they're just trying to do their best. And of course, if there wasn't a video, there would definitely be criticism there. Why didn't you make a video? How dare you?
Absolutely. And he's absolutely right, in my opinion.
Yeah. So totally, it kind of felt like, it made for good radio because they both got pretty intense in ways that, like, I've known Mark for a while. I've met him in public a couple times. It's been a while since I last seen him in public, but like I've known, followed him for a while.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever seen him that heated in a public media scenario before, or at least since he's become a Mavericks broadcaster. I know he had a radio career before he became a Mavericks broadcaster, so it might be missing something. But he's been, he's pretty calm, cool, and collected when he's doing media hits or interviews and things like that.
So I think that was people too. He is very loyal to his people.
Well, no, he's around it every day, and that team, that group puts together a good product. And say what you will about what the Mavericks are doing with the basketball operations, the video work, the creative work that group does is pretty top notch. And I must say, now we're getting inside baseball, but as someone that knows how this business works, those people aren't paid a lot.
No.
The sports media industry, like working for teams for their media departments,
you're doing it because you love it.
Right. And teams get away with it because they know, well, if you won't do this job, then we'll hire, there's 30, 20-year-olds that are about to graduate college that will do this job because they just want to work for a sports team.
Yep.
So you will take this salary. Like, that's kind of how it works. It is not a glamorous job. Like, you think you're working for a pro sports team that because players get paid millions, the team ops people do not get paid that much. It is a very low, thankless job, to be honest, when you consider that they kind of are on the front line, in terms of social media. Like when they post something and people are like, "F you, why did you trade Luka?" It's like, well,
that's right,
guys. I get paid $50,000 a year, and part of my job is I have to post these tweets. Like that's just part of it. So that's just kind of how it is.
This is a big preface. Like, we've been talking for like 6 minutes to preface a 10-minute clip. No, but I think it's worth it because here's why. Here's why I found it so interesting. Since the February 1st trade of Luka Doncic, that was by far the most public, honest conversation between a Mavs adjacent employee and a media member that I have seen. Like with all due respect to the Dallas Morning News and the Patrick Dumont interview where he got to push his agenda. I just haven't seen anything remotely like that because Bob Sturm attempted within his ability to hold someone accountable with the Mavericks while simultaneously knowing Mark Followell's not to blame. And it was fascinating because he didn't want to put Followell in the position of saying this trade is stupid, they shouldn't have done it. But he did put Followell in the position of saying, there's a lot of stuff I don't understand. And for me, maybe I'm just too in it, but and this gets to my piece today where I called for Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd to be fired, is I don't think you can move on until you admit to some level of mistake. That's in almost anything. Working relationships, friendships, business stuff, all across the board. I don't think you can ever truly move on until you acknowledge that mistakes were made. And the closest we got was that radio segment yesterday to me.
And it's very stupid that that's coming from the
TV
play-by-play. Like, that should not be coming from him, which I think is where a lot of that came from. Right?
That was what Sturm was like. He's like, you guys, like, he won't talk, so I'm having to talk to you.
Right, exactly. Which is frustrating because he hasn't done, because Nico's only media availability happened in Cleveland, and not
Nico's a big fat coward.
Not a lot of people don't understand. The travel budgets for media are not the same. There were not a lot of Dallas media at that presser. It was basically Dallas Morning News, The Athletic,
Grant Afseth, because he travels he used to travel at every game.
But there's like 20 or 30 media people that are at Mavs home games. Maybe 3 or 4 of them were at that Cleveland game for that presser, and that was done on purpose. That was absolutely on purpose because he knew, he knew that they wouldn't be there. So that's a shame. Yeah, it was interesting radio for sure.
These guys are just hoping to run out the fucking clock, man. Yeah. That's what's so amazing here. They're trying to get to the off season so that they can figure stuff out. And that's why I finally just sort of, I rarely use my bully pulpit on Mavs Moneyball because number one, I'm like, my brain just doesn't work anymore. So I can't write things. Like, I must have written the Mavericks need to fire him 6 times over the last 6 weeks. And I just never published it because I was like, this is incoherent.
No, but you did a good job. I'm glad we have it on the site, even though, like I've said, I don't have the fan brain as much as you, but
it's an opinion piece.
It needs, well, it needs to be. It's it feels like our site's mission statement in a way. Like it just needs to be out there because it's absolutely the truth at this point. Like, I don't know how,
we'll talk about what I wrote in it later, but I laid out just how bare and bleak it is and why I think you have to fire him to be able to start moving through the bare and bleakness. Because to be quite candid with you and everybody else here, and this is late in the show, nobody's going to listen to this, Nico Harrison still has his finger on the version of like the Mavericks nuclear button. Like, he can still blow things up and make it even worse.
Oh, yeah.
And I just don't think folks understand that. I mean, we're going to circle back on that in the coming days and weeks, and I'm sure they're going to make some changes. They have smart people. They're going to try to improve the team, yada, yada. But I mean, I just don't see it. So, speaking of things that are on the site, though, you wrote a wonderful post-game piece. There's been, we had the piece from Andy Tobo, your piece, David Trink turned in a piece. Brent had something up that I really liked.
Yep.
Meta turned in something. Yep. I mean, guys,
Jordan had something the day of the game.
God, that was good too.
Tyler had something that was good too. Tyler got something up too.
Yeah, just really proud because look, guys, the people that work with us, we're doing this way more out of love than anything else because the money that we do get paid is not justify the hours we put into it. It's kind of why Doyle doesn't do this with us anymore. But I'm really proud of the stuff that was written and how it got set up there. And based off of what I can tell from the website traffic, people are responding to it. So, well, I don't know what we're going to do Sunday. My Sunday's chaos. I usually make it work on Sundays with these afternoon games, but it might be too much. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do something Sunday.
Well, that's okay. I'll hold down the fort. But if the king, If the Kings are currently down 3 points to the Clippers at the start of the third quarter.
If it gets weird, I'll try to find a way to make it work.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the Kings win tonight, the Mavericks might not play anyone on Sunday. So because they'll be locked into 10, and there's literally nothing to play for. You are not going to play Anthony Davis any more than he has to before you actually have to play a real game.
Get him out of the game.
What?
Harp was like, get Anthony Davis.
I know they were all shocked when he started the fourth, which you got to wrap these guys in bubble wrap on Sunday if the Kings end up winning this game tonight. Which who knows? They're the Kings. They're also a mess.
Well, so no post-game show tonight. Not enough to talk about. Probably no post-game show or post-game show Sunday either. We will definitely have, obviously, a live show for whatever playing game the Mavericks have, and then a secondary show where we can talk in. We're going to handle each game as it comes. If they happen to win and play a second one, we'll go from there. But right now, Josh and I are just trying to figure this out a day at a time, so bear with us. Thank you so much for your support. Josh, you got anything before we get out of here?
No, let's just let's get to the play-in. I'm the first Mavericks playing, and they've danced around it a couple times. They've never actually been in it, so
that's right. I'm not excited.
Feel the passion, feel the energy,
feel the love. All right,
yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody. This has been a longer show than I meant, but isn't that always the case? Go Mavs.